and welcome back to the Guild. So we're here today to cover the strengths, weaknesses, and beginner's guide for the Post-Human Republic, the PHR. So for those of you that aren't aware, they are an elite, technologically advanced, heavy fleet. And you will be rewarded for things like careful positioning and methodical play rather than aggressive rushing. Their ships tend to be expensive, they are resilient, and if they're brought to bear correctly, can be horrendously devastating, but your positioning is going to be key. So let's take a quick look at their strengths and their weaknesses. Okay, so let's start off with our usual standard class ship of the line. So in the PHR faction, we have the Orion. Now compared to equivalent ships of the line, it's got an average thrust, which is great. It has an above average scan, which is also pretty good. Now, comparatively, its signature is quite good because it's an average signature with an increased scan, but you've also got that sat on a hull of 11. The energy save is awesome at a 3+. Your kinetic save is middle of the road at 4. You can take it in groups of 1 to 2, and then it is packed with 2 medium caliber broadsides and a medium caliber turret. All this for 105 points. This thing is awesome. It's probably my favorite of the standard class cruisers because it's an all-round workhorse, and 2 of them is a real problem if you take them in groups of 2. But what we are getting here is you will notice they are extremely durable. They're among the toughest ships in the game with their higher armor values and additional hull points. When we get around to it, some of the medium cruisers have got as much as 13 hull, which is whopping, really. They've got powerful long-range weapons, so you've got burn-through lasers usually at the prow, or something similar. And then you've got heavy banks of batteries on the sides of the ships, which are usually medium caliber, heavy caliber, light caliber. But they can easily use the burn-through lasers to cripple ships and then use the broadsides to start finishing things off when they start getting close. The capital ships are just incredible. Cruisers, battle cruisers are awesome. Like really, really good. You've got some high quality launch assets here. So your bombers and your fighters are both solid components. And because your fleet is effectively a slow and purposeful gun line, bomber waves and fighter waves are going to really sort of tie into that because you want to keep that durability and you want to keep that threat range. So yeah, they do sit quite nicely in PHR. You've got some really forgiving durability, so the mistakes are going to be less punishing with PHR because you can just absorb stuff. Where you are going to potentially suffer is if you're not perfect with your maneuverability and where you're placing your ships. They are slow, and you might struggle to reposition them once they're committed. Now, a good player is going to take advantage of that, so it's something you may want to start picking up and having a practice with. They are broadside dependent for the most part, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. There are plenty of ship options that have got a front-facing gun in addition to the broadside banks. But if you want to go full-blown broadside, you're going to be looking at approaching the board kind of in an X. So you're coming on from your 2 corners, and they're interlinking across and over, and that will allow you to get your broadsides in earlier, but only half of your, or really one side of your broadsides. But it does mean you can get everything into arc a lot quicker. The frontal firepower is weaker than the broadside firepower, but that's not to say it's not good. In fact, some of the frontal firepower is incredibly reliable, if not sort of completely devastating. But we'll come around to some specific ships that will break that mold, like the Caesar. We'll come back around to that in a moment. You are not going to have many ships on the table. The ships are expensive, so your model count is going to be low. Perfect for a beginner, really. Though I will say that they're deceptively tough to paint because getting that smooth finish on those curved edges is pretty important, because without that smooth finish, they do look a bit strange. And I suppose the lower speed is going to make things, if you've got to contest objectives, that's going to be more difficult. You're not going to be able to react to fast opponents as well. However, again, you can outstrip most things in a direct firefight. That sort of deliberate gun line is how I'd be approaching these. Ordinarily, I'd cover tricks of the trade here, and go through some of the unique tools that some of your fleets have, etc., etc. However, this becomes very easy with the PHR because it's mostly making you tougher, which you didn't need, but you're still going to have. So let's have a look at some of the unique bits of kit they've got that just make you harder to kill. So let's take a look at a deployable feature. We've got the shield platform. So this thing will give any ships within 6 inches of reinforced armor special rule. That is horrific. You can only be crit on a result of 3 higher than the lock value required, as opposed to 2. And the drop sites also count as having reinforced armor, which reduces the lock of energy weapons targeting the drop site by 1. Again, fantastic. So, I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you haven't taken those, you're mad, in my opinion, because it's one of the only ways I've seen to counter bombard. It's not a direct counter, obviously, but it does make things harder for an enemy to bomb your cities flat. I mean, why wouldn't you take that? And also, it makes the ships brawling above tougher. Yeah, that feels like a really solid option. You then have the option of 2 escorting vessels, one of which brings Aegis to the party, the other brings a single fighter or bomber, and that is going to be your Pollux and your what are they called? Pandoras? I'm going to call it a Pandora and hope that I'm correct. So these are, I think they're well priced for what they do. They got a decent amount of hull. The Pollux in particular has got a 2+ energy save on an escort ship, which is pretty damn nice depending on your matchup. If you've gone the other way with the matchup and you're facing down some kinetic stuff, then take the Pandora and make benefit of the fighters. They're really good options for escorting. Escorting, of course, making your battle cruisers and battleships that much harder to kill, and your colossal stuff too. You also have the Calypso, which makes your opponent less accurate. Perfect. And then let's also consider the fact you can take things like the Hippocrates, which will just switch your opponent's guns off, and the 20 points. These things make me very irate when I've got an Amazon, well, they're not called Amazons anymore. I've got a Drake on the table, and a 20-point ship comes and turns your gun off. It's table flipping me frustrating. So, yeah, they're pretty handy. And then going back to the deployable features, you've also got scanner towers. Now, you don't have detector anywhere in this fleet. Your range is already pretty good. There are ways to further improve your range, but that's a start. You can place 2 spikes twice, effectively, on 2 different groups. Actually, it doesn't even need to be 2 different groups. You could just place 4 straight on 1, which is pretty special indeed. Another tool you will have access to is a ship I do not remember the name of, bear with, it is the Oriana Swiftlink. It's effectively, you float this within range, as if you were going to shoot it. You float it within range of your friendly ship, and now what happens is your friendly ship can measure the range from the Oriana Swiftlink instead. So it effectively gives you additional range. I think if you're clever but you position, you can get a good 12 inches of additional range on a weapon, maybe even more. So yeah, that's quite neat as well, particularly if you're combining it with your scanner towers. You also have holographic fields on some of your ships, which effectively puts it basically puts a debris field on the table, and your opponent will get all the negatives where you get none of them. So there'll be no spikes coming through for them shooting at you, and you can just fire through it as if it wasn't there. Now, that's pretty neat. So yeah, there we have it. You can improve your own range whilst maintaining more defensive stats than any other fleet. Now, if that's not good, I don't know what is. Okay, so we're going to turn down the lights now and take a look at a 1500 point beginners list. Now, everything in this list will be contained in the same box. You will only require the Dropfleet Commander PHR Battle Fleet, price convenient £85 from Firestorm Games. Everything inside of this fleet list is going to be contained within that box, and we're going to start at the lower end of things with 2 Andromeda. The Andromeda going to provide an escort. They're in a group so that you can tank bigger hits effectively, because of the rule where you can't take a hit that would otherwise sort of overblow your own hull. You can only take so much damage. Put them in a group is a pretty good move because it allows you to take more hits. They're pretty swift, which is handy, and they also come with some fighters, which you might need because there's no more of that in this list. Coming up next, we've got two separate groups of two Medea strike carriers. Now, Medea, I love Medea. Medea have got bombard attack, which makes them pretty nifty in the first place, as well as being a strike carrier. So they're not as quick as some of their counterparts in other lists, but that doesn't matter. If they're arriving late, they've got the bombard attack to thin things out before they start putting their drop troops on the ground. Coming up next, we have a pair of Hippocrates. Now, these are singles, so 2 units of 1, or 2 groups of 1, I should say. The only reason I've done that is so you can use them as activation sinks, but they're a 20-point threat to anything that wants to shoot, because they're just going to come in and turn your guns off. I hate these things, which probably means that PHW players love them. I have then gone with an Oriana Swiftlink, just 1, and that will be paired up with our battleship choice, which we'll come to shortly. I then have a pair of 2 Electra, giving you some access to heavy caliber. Pretty handy for going out there and finishing off crippled targets. They're nice and quick as well, but they're durable enough for their points cost. Then we have our final 2 frigate options, which have both been set up as Calypso. It's kind of your choice here if you want to set these up as a pair or 2 individual groups of 1. Now, my personal preference would be to set these up as 2 groups of 1 and have them escort 2 different groups each. We then moving on to our medium tonnage, and we have straight out the bat 2 Ganymedes. Similar to the Medea, they have got bombard as well as being a troop ship. They also have got a medium caliber broadside, which is quite useful. It's an all-round decent ship, and with 13 hull, it's not easy to take these things out either. You won't be sorry about having a pair of these. Then we have a pair of Tusia. These are actually in a group, and Tusia come with a much-needed front-facing armament in the burn-through laser. They also add some more medium-caliber attacks, plus they're bringing in more heavy-caliber attacks to match what your Electras are carrying. Pretty all-round, actually, these 2 ships. They are equipped to take all comers. And finally, we have the big boy here, the Caesar. The Caesar is a front narrow, damage dealing weapon. It is just a hovering gun, and it's going to take big bites out of stuff. The idea with this list being, the Caesar comes in, it'll hit a target, hopefully, with the assistance of your Oriana Swiftlink, and if you are afraid of getting hit back, you can tag its weapons offline with the Hippocrates. You will then follow up with some broadsides or with the Electra in order to finish that ship off. If you're starting to tank hits, you've got a pair of Calypso and a pair of Andromeda nearby to make that Caesar really stick for days. Days and days and days. You've got a good amount of drop in 4 strike carriers and 2 dropships, plus all of those are equipped with Bombard, which gives you some counterplay. With the 65 points we have remaining, we've taken a level 3 Vice Director, and I don't think you'd be sorry for making this particular build out of this set. This is pretty much an all-comers list, I would say. I don't think this has got any major problems. I think it's reasonably balanced, but you let me know what you think. Would you fly this? Would you build something entirely different out of that kit? I will notice I have not taken any Bellerophon, which are also amazing. But yeah, let me know how you would build it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's helped.